Chapter 51, Bloody Methods. From the start of the match, Chen Xiang fell under the wind. It was out of everyone's expectations that Yao Chang's true strength was at the 7th level of the mortal martial realm, which surprised all of them. Now they all understood why the Yao family had matched up Yao Chang against Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang, are you only this strong? I'm very disappointed. Ling Yulan stood nearby hugging her bosom, her cold eyes filled with disappointment. At this time, Chen Xiang was already pushed to the edge of the stage and was going to be hit again by Yao Chang. The Yao family's methods were very clever and even caught Chen Xiang off guard. The Yao family considered nearly everything, but didn't know about the invisible ring on Chen Xiang's finger, or the two peerless beauties inside it, one of which was a grandmaster of alchemy. This is a strong poisonous gas that has a strong attribute of paralysis, but after the refinement of your body in the immortal and devil pool, your meridians are extremely tough. You only need to operate the Tai Chi divine exercise and let the Tai Chi diagram in your denshin rotate and the poisonous gas will be refined. Su Meiyao said, operating the Tai Chi divine exercise at once. The spirit ki all around Chen Xiang madly rushed into his body, surging into the meridians along with the paralysis poisonous gas. They both flowed into his denshin and was refined by the 5-element true ki inside. Yao Chang originally wanted to seriously wound Chen Xiang and then toss him off the stage, but no matter what Yao Chang did, Chen Xiang's eyes were filled with a deadly killing intent. Nothing close to resembling humanity could be seen in his eyes. Chen Xiang was already able to move. Meanwhile, without knowing this, the crowd was watching as Yao Chang pulled out a short knife that was shrouded in a cold aura, heading straight for Chen Xiang's chest. TLN. The actual translation for the short knife was Snickersnee, which looked like this. Go die! Yao Chang shouted. Everyone was shocked as the whole field bursted into commotion. One could hear curses being shouted one after another. Just as Yao Chang's short knife was about to pierce his opponent's chest, Chen Xiang, who had not moved until now, suddenly stirred. Every single bone in Chen Xiang's body was ringing, emitting a crackling sound. He stretched out his left hand and grabbed the edge of the short knife between his two fingers, then viciously pinched the weapon, turning it into small shards. Bastard! First you paralyzed me with underhanded poisonous gas, and now you want to kill me so desperately. You Yao family scum are ruthless. Chen Xiang cursed extremely angrily. Violent azure aura surged into both of his hands, filling to the brim with a lighting aura true ki, which was extremely scary. Go die! Chen Xiang shouted angrily as both of his fists shot forward like two violent storms, striking directly on Yao Chang's body. In just a blink of an eye, a rain of fists containing violent lighting ki pounded Yao Chang's body. Yao Chang could only emit a series of pitiful screams as the Yao family members in the audiences quickly leapt towards the stage. After seeing this, Chen Xiang's palm suddenly transformed into a huge azure dragon claw. Azure true ki was valiantly soaring from the dragon claw and swiftly pierced through Yao Chang's body as blood soon sprayed out like a never-ending fountain. The instant Yao Chang was hit by the azure dragon claw, true ki easily pierced into his fragile body and left 5 gaping holes. He fell like a rag doll onto the ground but was still not dead yet. Chen Xiang, stop! A Yao family elder blasted a fist towards Chen Xiang, who easily sidestepped it. A sudden burst of true ki flashing with lightning aura could be seen on Chen Xiang's legs. Fiercely lifting his leg up, he spun like he was wielding a giant axe wrapped in azure lighting and sent a devastating chop towards Yao Chang's waist. Stop that! Yao family elder roared again, but Yao Chang had already been split in two by Chen Xiang's violent spinning kick. Yao Chang died instantly on the stage. The sight was extremely bloody and disgusting, while everyone watching suddenly had shivers running down their spines. The whole wide field was dead silent. The only noise that could be heard was a large group of people gulping. Chen Xiang's action made everyone astonished. Someone had actually, right in front of the Yao family gate, in front of an Yao family elder, beheaded one of the Yao family's esteemed juniors. Not only that, but he had also done so in such a bloody and gruesome fashion. When he was trying to kill me, why didn't you try to stop him? If he tries to kill me, what in the world made you think I wouldn't kill him? Moreover, I still followed the rules imposed. Chen Xiang's voice was freezing yet fully of fiery anger. If he wasn't able to disperse the poisonous gas in time, he would have been killed. Just a moment ago, Yao Chang tried to stab Chen Xiang with a short knife. Everybody saw this clear violation of the rules. As such, Chen Xiang violating the rule of no killing did not mean anything. Do you want to fight me? Chen Xiang looked coldly at that Yao family elder as slaughter ki soared out from his whole body. The Yao family elder saw the split in half body lying on the ground, still dripping with blood. His old face was full of anger, but a gaze that was also filled with killing intent. At this time, several other Yao family elders arrived. Ha ha ha. So funny, the Yao family brat decided to go against the rules to try and kill someone, but still couldn't do anything. Instead he was butchered, and now, you old Yao family men are looking for revenge? One extremely bold individual stood up and suddenly started laughing loudly and openly mocking the Yao family. It was extremely loud and open. The ridicule from an audience member made those Yao family elders' complexions extremely ugly. They really hated Chen Xiang, so they had arranged Yao Chong to fight against Chen Xiang. They allowed Yao Chong to take the antidote before he filled his mouth with the poisonous gas, and the Yao Chong spoke with Chen Xiang. This way, Chen Xiang was poisoned. But despite all this, the Yao family underestimated Chen Xiang's strength. Yao Chong wasn't able to seriously injure Chen Xiang, but Yao Chong did not want to waste this golden opportunity. So he took out a short knife and tried to stab Chen Xiang. In Yao Chong's opinion, the Yao family was extremely powerful in the Southern Martial Empire and would be able to easily sweep this matter under the rug. Additionally, he would have killed Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang, we, the Yao family, will not let you off. One elder vengefully stated, his voice full of resentment. Chen Xiang sneered at him and said, the dignified Yao family has actually declined to such a point. Don't worry, I will not let off your Yao family either. Chen Xiang walked down the tournament stage. The Yao family elder didn't dare resort to violence because if he did so, the Yao family would be ridiculed in the entire Southern Martial Empire. Although this King City martial art tournament was managed by the Yao family, they still had to follow the rules. Yao Chong had violated the rules first, so Chen Xiang killing Yao Chong is a matter of course, even if the rules had stated against it. The Yao family wanted to stop Chen Xiang from leaving. They were reluctant to give way, but they all had a really good understanding of Yao Chong's strength. If Chen Xiang had easily executed Yao Chong in such a way, it was certain that Chen Xiang was, at the very least, encroaching the 8th level of the mortal martial realm strength. Chen Xiang, don't be so proud. Yao Chong's teacher will soon come and deal with you. One of the elders coldly snorted before giving way and sending orders to clean up the tournament stage. Both of the participants were thought to be at the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. Yet Yao Chong was so vulnerable in front of Chen Xiang. Beforehand, Yao Chong had madly attacked Chen Xiang with all his might, yet failed to cause any harm to Chen Xiang. It was visible to anyone that Chen Xiang's strength was extraordinary. He was definitely not an ordinary martial artist in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. Ling Yulin's beautiful curved eyebrows slightly knitted together. Watching Chen Xiang's back, she nibbled on her rosy red lips. She was also in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm, but the true ki she could cast out wasn't nearly as tough as Chen Xiang's. In both making true ki erupt instantly or transforming it into a ki or attack, it was extremely difficult to achieve it in such an arbitrary way. Even she could just barely do so. The grudge and hatred between Chen Xiang and the Yao family deepened again. Moreover, this time, the other major forces were also tangled in it. This was because the relationship between them and the Yao family was very good. Now that the war between the two were inevitable, they were unsettled. This was because if the Yao family lost the battle, then the Chen family would have annexed the Yao family, firmly grasping all of their properties. Plus, the Chen family was now also one of the strongest Dan forces. If these families helped the Yao family, they would only suffer a loss. Chapter 52, Beauty Departs. Chen Xiang returned to Dan King Hall. He instantly ran to practice within his private room. This time, Su Meiyao was going to teach him some underhanded methods to prevent poisoning. Otherwise, if he encountered a situation like this again, he may not be as lucky as he was today. Little devil, you should have enraged that old man today and made him come out and fight you. Now you've allowed him to prepare, you're too tender. Bai Yao said. She was wearing a black dress, both hands hugging her chest as she leaned on the wall. Her clear as ice eyes displayed an unrestrained killing intent. Su Meiyao gently laughed and said, "Senior sister, I remember that you once said how you are very satisfied with how this brat handles things. What changed?" Bai Yao snorts. Humph. He doesn't have enough hatred. Not decisive enough regarding killing. Sister Yao, are you not tired of always wearing the same clothes? How about I buy you some newer and prettier outfits? Chen Xiang laughed and said. In order to please both beauties, Chen Xiang simply resorted to the best method he knew. That was to suggest beautiful clothes as women liked this the most. Regarding this method, he has received rather good results from it. Bai Yao's elegant face turned slightly crimson and her tone also became somewhat gentler. For now, that is not required. Su Meiyao covered her mouth with her soft hands and started laughing. She pouted her small lips and complained, "You little brat, what kind of potion did my senior sister fetch you? She has more clothes than me, and I've always been so good to you as well. Yet my things are so few. You are completely biased." Chen Xiang stuck his tongue out, taking a deep breath to inhale the delicate fragrance released from Su Meiyao's body. He deliberately made a bitter face and said, "If I don't do this, how else can I make Sister Bai Yao feel superior?" "Humph, becoming a little more clever, are we?" Bai Yao snorts and says, "Senior sister, since you're unwilling, why not give these clothes to me?" Su Meiyao teasingly said, "You're actually asking me to give them to you? We usually share our clothes with each other." Bai Yao gave her a contemptuous look. Chen Xiang knew that both beauties resided all day within a small house inside the ring. No doubt, they were bored, so he often ordered a lot of beautiful clothes and got small things for them so they don't feel too down. He did all of this so that the two beauties would feel happy. Although they were once peerless experts, they had now lost all their strength and were just ordinary girls. Bai Yao and Su Meiyao both knew how to deal with colorless and odorless poisonous gases. They soon taught Chen Xiang what they knew. It was mainly the method of how to guard his meridians using true qi. After leaving the private room, Chen Xiang came to arbor in the backyard. Meng Bo and Chen Luzong were also here, both discussing alchemy techniques. Chen Xiang joined in on their conversation and all three proceeded to exchange their experiences, which benefited all of them. "Brat, today you've once again stirred up trouble. At such a young age, it's already hard to understand you. How come you have such a knack for trouble?" Chen Luzong shook his head and laughed. Meng Bo laughed brightly, said, "This brat is truly not ordinary. Otherwise how could I have been defeated by him? It seems like a war between your Chen family and the Yao family is inevitable." Chen Xiang skimmed his lips and replied, "The Yao family asked for it. I think I simply did the right thing." "Young Master Chen, Manager, Senior Dan King, I did not think you were all together." A tender, sweet and soft voice drifted over as Chen Xiang's heart jumped up. This was definitely Hui Yuyan's voice. About the matter between Chen Xiang and Hui Yuyan, these two old men had guessed a few things. Otherwise, how come the Dingshang Rival Manor was willing to sell spirit herbs to the Dan King Hall at such a cheap price? The two old men silently left on their own as Chen Xiang's heart turned bitter. Hui Yuyan's dress was very tight today. Her beautiful jade-like body was wrapped in a long white skirt. She looked like a fairy that enchanted people's mind with elegance. She had a unique flavor. Looking at her, Chen Xiang could not help but secretly praise her again and again, but at the same time he looked somewhat distressed. Seeing Chen Xiang looking depressed, Hui Yuyan angrily said, "I know you hate me." Chen Xiang hurriedly explained, "No, it's just that elder sister Yuyan, you are too tempting, that it could almost be considered a crime." Hui Yuyan suddenly became happy, as she tenderly laughed and said, "Are you worried about me? Relax, as long as you enter the Dangxiang Taiyuan, and become an excellent alchemist, I'm yours." Chen Xiang shook his head and said, "No, I have already said that I want to enter the extreme martial sect." Hui Yuyan snored softly and said, "Little sweetheart, are you thinking about other people now?" Chen Xiang quickly replied, I did not." "Yuyan's sister, you're really pretty, but as you know, I'm engaged to Xiangxian. So if I want to have concubines, I need to get her approval as well." Hui Yuyan softly sighed, then stuck her tongue out towards Chen Xiang. Making fun of him, she said, "I do not want to be your mistress. I want to be your maidservant." "Right, I'm going back to the Dangxiang Taiyuan today. Why don't you come with me?" Hui Yuyan asked. Her face was full of anticipation. Chen Xiang was surprised and replied, "Dangxiang Taiyuan? I've already decided to go the extreme martial sect. Thanks for your consideration, but I'll have to decline." "Do not be surprised, but each manor lord is called Hui Yuyan. I've managed the Dangxiang Rival Manor for 2 years. Now I must go back. I must tell you that my real name is not Hui Yuyan." Hui Yuyan said. Her complexion immediately became one full of disappointment, now that she had to walk away from Chen Xiang. "I'm really sorry, but if I have the opportunity, I'll go to the Dangxiang Taiyuan and find you." Chen Xiang sighed. Hui Yuyan said with a perfect smile, "Do not worry about the Dangxiang Rival Manor selling herbs to the Dan King Hall. Even after I'm gone, the Dangxiang Rival Manor will keep cooperating with the Dan King Hall, and the prices will also not increase." Chen Xiang was confused about why this girl wanted to be his maidservant. Nonetheless, he was extremely grateful to her. "Thank you. You do not need to be my maidservant. We're friends. In the future, I'll go to the Dangxiang Taiyuan and look for you." Hu Yuyan laughed, said, "You do not want me as your girl? You'll certainly regret it later. Remember, you must come to the Dangxiang Taiyuan and find me. For now I won't tell you my name. I don't want you finding me so easily after all." As soon as she finished speaking, she quickly went over to Chen Xiang and kissed him, then ran away laughing, leaving Chen Xiang petrified like a stone statue. What's the matter with this woman? Chen Xiang licked his lips that still had some remaining fragrance, making him feel inexplicably wonderful. Su Meiyao laughed softly and said, "This little Yao Jing decided to eat you. I'm still not clear how you are so fortunate. Before it was Zhu Xiangxian, and now this Yao Jing has taken a liking to you." Chen Xiang snorts and said in a low voice and in a very cocky way, "Humph, that's because of my charm. You will understand why in the future." These days, although Chen Xiang wasn't refining pills, he had been accumulating dragon saliva for growing herbs. He also started preparations for refining high-grade mortal level dans and low-grade spirit level dans. This was a new challenge for him, now that his strength was at the 8th level of the mortal martial realm. The very next morning, Chen Xiang arrived at the entrance of the Yao family field. Today was the match between Lang Yulan and Song Nanming. One was the crown prince, while the other was the daughter of a great general. Both of their strength were at the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. This sort of things made others very much look forward to their match. Chapter 53, Vicious Hidden Weapon. On one side, above the tournament stage, a handsome man wearing a golden heel-fu stood, while on the other side, a mature girl wearing black tights that sketched out her charming and hot figure. Although she was only a young girl, she was already peerless beauty and had remarkable grace. Furthermore, she had beautiful yet bizarre white hairs. Nonetheless, she was very attractive. As Chen Xiang watched, he fell into disbelief. In the eyes of the crown prince, Song Nanming, pure unhidden resentment could be seen. Chen Xiang was sure that there must be some deep grudge between the two. "Have you heard? This crown prince once proposed to Lang Yulan, but she actually refused. Furthermore, the crown prince then tried to take liberties with her and was slapped as a result," a man said. "I also heard that Lang Yulan kicked him in between his legs, wasting him. Later, he had to spend a large amount of spirit coins to buy an extremely good spirit herb," laughed a middle-aged man. "Haya, this is definitely going to be fun to watch." Chen Xiang didn't expect Lang Yulan had such courage to deal with Song Naming in such a peculiar way. As the contest started, Lang Yulan once again transformed into a black shadow, treading above the stage. After all, this excellent King Gong was her speciality. She was moving in hyperspeed above the tournament stage, from time to time sending a slap or a kick towards Song Naming. Each time he either dodged or parried her attack. Song Naming's strength was also quite good, but still it was a bit lacking compared to Lang Yulan's. After all, she had the fire and ice dual vein, and was able to fuse fire true ki together with ice, resulting in a powerful and strange fusion of true ki. Although Song Nanming was able to parry her attacks, the true ki had a considerable effect on him, making his body feel as if it was sometimes hot and others cold. Additionally, he wasn't able to hit Lang Yulan because she was moving too quickly. Certainly Lang Yulan doesn't just have good martial skills, she only has this King Gong for high-speed movement, Sima Yao said. Because of her fire and ice true ki, only a few martial skills are suitable for her. As such, she can only battle this way. In the end, she doesn't get it by any attack, not even allowing an opportunity for the opponent to touch her. This girl is fairly clever. What Chen Xiang cultivated was a multiple-type true ki, and was also able to direct single or multiple attributes of true ki at the same time. However, Lang Yulan couldn't. She could only use the fusion of fire and ice true ki. Only a few martial arts skills utilize both kis at the same time. This was very troubling for Lang Yulan. Although her true ki was terrifying, she lacked a truly suitable martial skill to demonstrate her full power. Song Nanming was still unable to hit Lang Yulan and could not help but grow irritated. He knew that if things were to continue unchanged, he would definitely lose. At this moment, Chen Xiang saw faint flashes of light suddenly flicker above the contest stage. His eyesight was extremely good. He could even see the ant flag on the tournament stage. What he saw was a few nearly transparent needles that were protruding from Song Naming's sleeves. Ice needles. Chen Xiang silently cursed at Song Naming. Soon, he heard Lang Yulan's cold and beautiful shout. He saw that she was suddenly covering her abdomen, staring at Song Naming with a face full of anger. Song Nanming only grinned in response and in a single step, arrived in front of Lang Yulan. Emitting true ki from his legs, he fiercely kicked Lang Yulan's covered abdomen. The violent and powerful kick struck firmly on her body. Lang Yulan screamed as she flew off the tournament stage, To everyone's surprise, she managed to steadily stop herself, but her hands covering her abdomen were soaked with blood. You despicable fellow. Lang Yulan bit her lips. Her eyes were filled with resentment and hate towards Song Nanming, who was still on the tournament stage. You are merely incompetent, yet you dare call me despicable? Song Nanming sneered. Lang Yulan removed her palm. Her abdomen was still bleeding, but there was nothing to see. She could only feel a trace of coldness. She quickly guessed it was due to an ice needle, but it had already melted. Chen Xiang arrived beside her as he took out some herbal powder into dispelling poison Dan. Speaking in a serious tone, he said, "Be careful. Ice needles are often poisonous." Lang Yulan looked at the objects in Chen Xiang's hands and could not help but be surprised. She nibbled her lips and whispered, "Thank you. Don't worry. I'll make him pay for what he did to you." Chen Xiang slightly smiled towards her. Lang Yulan sighed and said, "My hopes for entering a martial sect is now shattered. Many thanks, young Master Chen, for giving me these dans." Chen Xiang understood that in order to learn appropriate martial skills, Lang Yulan had to enter a sect and search. But now she had lost that opportunity. "Brat, give her the metal spirit fruit and make her go to the extreme martial sect. She has the rare ice and fire dual vein. The extreme martial sect will eagerly accept her." Sima Yao said. Chen Xiang was surprised to hear this while looking at Lang Yulan's slightly angry face. "Tell her that if the extreme martial sect does not accept her, she could give the metal spirit fruit in exchange for an assessment." This time it was Bai Yao's voice. They were all girls and Lang Yulan is a good seedling. They would naturally want her to have good achievements in the future. Chen Xiang whispered, "Miss Lang, this poison contained within the ice needles may be serious. Could you accompany me to the Dan King Hall for further examination?" Song Nanming, who was on the tournament stage, he grounded his teeth as he watched Chen Xiang and Lang Yulan interact. Song Nanming could not hear what Chen Xiang said, but he hated the fact that the two were talking to each other. Chen Xiang and Lang Yulan acted fairly nice towards each other. One is a prestigious and talented teenager while the other was a 7th level mortal martial realm beauty. Mutual admiration was a normal thing to occur. Lang Yulan nodded her head and left with Chen Xiang. She was also worried about the poison in the ice needles as she could possibly die from it. On the 3rd floor of the Dan King Hall, Meng Bo's face was full of anger, declaring, "Very good, ruthless poison. This thing could remain hidden in someone's body for a very long time. The majority of this poison could even remain inside an individual for several months, possibly even after a year. Little girl, don't worry too much. Although this position is formidable, once it's found it's actually quite simple to remove." Meng Bo chuckled and pulled out a Dan. "This is a high-grade mortal level Dan, the cleansing core Dan. It can easily detoxify this poison." When Lang Yulan found out that Song Nanming had used such deceitful and devious means to deal with her after the competition, her face was full of hatred. She looked at the Dan in Meng Bo's hand and asked in a low voice, "How many spirit coins?" "Just eat it, there is no need to pay." Chen Xiang then took the Dan and handed it to her. Meng Bo chuckled as he left on his own cognizance. Lang Yulan had a complex expression that could be seen in her eyes as she looked at Chen Xiang. "Why are you helping me?" Although she had brought up the matter, she guessed that Chen Xiang might have been attracted to her beautiful face. But she also knew that Chen Xiang had a fiancé, one who was currently away in one of those martial sects, a very talented and beautiful girl. Chen Xiang laughed and said, "No big reason, I just wanted to become friends." Lang Yulan swallowed the Dan and then smiled towards Chen Xiang. It was similar to a peony flower blossoming. Chen Xiang could not help but stare at her. "I never thought that I would become friends with you, a genius alchemist. It's my pleasure to be friends with you." Lang Yulan's complexion became much better as she softly said, "Many thanks, young Master Chen." Chen Xiang shook his head in response and said, "Don't mention it. Here, this is a metal spirit fruit. Keep it." Although Lang Yulan was not proficient in herbs, even she had heard about the metal spirit fruit. She also knew that it was this fruit that the Dan King Hall had used to recruit alchemists, but had not expected Chen Xiang to give one to her. Chapter 54. Sister. Edited by Seats. "Don't ask me why. Just take it and go to the extreme martial sect. If they don't let you join, give them the metal spirit fruit in exchange for an assessment. Through this method, you can enter into the sect, as I believe that you hold all the qualifications needed to pass their examination." Chen Xiang instructed. Lang Yulan was shocked. For her, it was very hard to believe that Chen Xiang would help her in such a way. "Yulan, your father, Great General Lang, was killed in battle a few years ago. It was you who has had it hard these past few years. How about we become sworn brother and sister? After I also enter the extreme martial sect, I will take care of you." Chen Xiang's heart was moved when he remembered Lang Yulin's life experience. Watching her, anyone would feel pity and compassion towards her, as they couldn't help but have such feelings. Lang Yulin also became startled. She nibbled her lips as her eyes suddenly became moist. Yet, she faced Chen Xiang, smiled and said, "Little sister greets elder brother." Chen Xiang grinned. "Yulin, you have the fire and ice veins. After you enter the martial arts site, your future prospects are boundless. I'll help you in any way I can." Before, Lang Yulin was a little worried about Chen Xiang, but any of her suspicions and other thoughts had vanished in a puff of smoke. She now knew that, with Chen Xiang's current status, he could get any girl he wished for. It would be very idiotic of him to tarnish his reputation just because of a matter between a man and a woman. Although Chen Xiang and Lang Yulin had just recently met, they were concerned about each other, almost as if they had known each other for a long time. And today, they had met and recognized each other as equals. Chen Xiang was helping her, and essentially showering her with love. She was extremely moved, as this was the first time that someone has shown such care for her after her father's death. They had only met each other for the first time, yet she had already received so much help. Therefore, Lang Yulin was very happy to become Chen Xiang's sister. From the moment she had heard about him, she was impressed by Chen Xiang's strength, almost to the point of secretly worshipping him. "Brother, I'll always remember your kindness today. I'll be on my way. My body's situation is slightly complicated at the moment. I don't want to delay any longer. Remember to teach that ruthless Song Nanming a lesson he won't forget." Lang Yulin said, as she smiled at Chen Xiang. "Yulin, hold on. Be sure to be careful on the way." Chen Xiang then passed her a small jade bottle. Inside of it were several very good pills, solidifying Lang Yulin's feelings of gratitude. Lang Yulin's father was killed 3 years ago in battle. For all these years she had been living alone. It was very difficult for her. However, trying to elevate her strength alone showed that she was a very strong girl. Lang Yulin's eyes once again moistened up. She nodded and said, "Please accept Yulin's salute." Chen Xiang immediately went to hug her, laughingly saying, "My dear sister, I forbid you to do such things. Be careful on your way to the martial sect. I'll become a lot stronger. Brother, you must remember to look for me." Lang Yulin wiped her tears away, as the feelings of receiving somebody's love and concern had made her feel very moved once again. "I'll certainly come." Chen Xiang stroked her silky white hair. "Brother, what if I don't go just yet? I know there is some hatred between you and the Yao family. Perhaps I can be of help." Lang Yulin restored her previous cold and proud demeanor, her whole body full of vigor. With her warlike intentions soaring, she resembled a Valkyrie. But watching Chen Xiang, her expression was soft. Chen Xiang shook his head, smiled and said, "No, my Chen family can easily deal with it. Your health is more important." Lang Yulin bit her lips, firmly saying, "Brother, later I'll fight side by side with you. I won't drag you down." Chen Xiang was very pleased with her reply. He nodded his head and asked, "You know the way?" "I know. I've been gathering information about all of the sects long ago. Although the route is somewhat dangerous, I can handle it. There is no need for you to worry." Lang Yulin said. Chen Xiang accompanied Lang Yulin out of the city. Here, he sat down and watched, as she rode away on a horse. In the afternoon, it was Chen Xiang's turn to compete. But when he went to the tournament stage, he was told his competitor had abstained, which made him feel somewhat weird. After the display of Chen Xiang's strength, in addition to the bloody display he had made yesterday when he had killed Yao Cheng, everyone was afraid of Chen Xiang's strength and the fear was still lingering in their minds. In the finals, Chen Xiang was going to be facing the Crown Prince, Song Nanming. The audience was extremely looking forward towards this match. For many people, the Crown Prince's strength was unfathomable, because of how he had defeated Lang Yulin. Additionally, he was, after all, the Crown Prince of the Southern Martial Empire. As such, he had a gigantic number of resources and could learn various powerful martial skills. But Chen Xiang knew that Song Nanming's strength was inferior to Lang Yulin. It was only because of his dirty tricks that he had won. Chen Xiang had already decided that as long as the Crown Prince used ice needles against him, he would act mercilessly. The Dan King Hall had already been opened for a few days. It was also very popular, stealing away a lot of the Yao family's business. Chen Xiang was concerned about the Chen family elder, Chen Thuong. He hadn't taken any action yet, even though Chen Xiang had just killed one of the important Yao family's juniors yesterday. Taking into account Chen Thuong's previous actions, he should be looking to cause trouble for the Dan King Hall. Chen Xiang was sure he was up to no good. He also received a message from his father, that the majority of the Chen family's experts were on their way to the King City. Furthermore, they were coming secretly. Late at night, Chen Xiang was cultivating in a private room, when he suddenly sensed the breathing of several people at the 8th level of the mortal martial realms appearing inside the Dan King Hall. He was awakened by this and quickly left his private room, heading towards the source of the breaths. Dad! Chen Xiang was surprised as he looked at the other people present. In the group, there were 2 middle-aged men, the other 3 being rather old. Uncle Yian, Great Uncle Hihai, Great Elder, Second Elder, and Third Elder. Chen Xiang was shocked in his heart, as he quickly saluted these elders. Excluding Chen Hihai, Elder Chen Yian, the other 3 were at the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. Yet now, they had already entered the 8th level of the mortal martial realm. TLN, I don't know about other, but in my translation Great Elder, Great Uncle, Great Brother as such means eldest brother, uncle and such. Smelly brat, you certainly put my 1000-year-old blood spirit grass to good use. Chen Hihai laughed merrily. He was quite sorrowful on the day that he had lost that herb. But now, when he saw that the Dan King Hall had flourished to such a degree, he felt surprised and delighted. Chen Hihai smiled. His smile was somewhat gentle while at the same time somewhat sinister, as he said, I didn't expect that you could establish a Dan shop in such a short amount of time. Moreover, drawing in the Dan King, our Chen family will certainly be able to become one of the strongest families in the Southern Martial Empire. The other 3 elders also praised him abundantly. One bald old man said, the Yao family was greatly resisting and blocking our Chen family's entry into King City. Among them was Chen Thuong. Great Elder is correct. Fortunately for us, we made contact with an ancestor of our Chen family. He helped us break through to the 8th level of the mortal martial realm using spirit-level dans. He cannot meddle in secular worldly matters, so he let us clean out the house and handle Chen Thuong. The second elder made a killing gesture. Chen Xiang frowned, asking, how strong is Chen Thuong? How many Chen family members have come? Chen Tianhu answered, we brought 300 elite disciples, who are all above the 4th level of the mortal martial realm, while we few old men also came to help. Chen Tianhua was also at the 8th level of the mortal martial realm, and now there are 6 Chen family martial artists who were at the 8th level of the mortal martial realm. Counting in Chen Xiang, that number was raised to 7. According to the structures of power in the Southern Martial Empire, their strength was quite astonishing. Chen Thuong is estimated to be at the 9th level of the mortal martial realm. Thus, 6 of us together may just barely be able to balance it out. The Great Elder said with a somewhat serious expression. Chen Xiang smiled slightly. If our Chen family and the Yao family go to war, you just have to handle the Yao family. Leave Chen Thuong to me. Chen Tianhu suddenly stood there blankly, as the jaws of the 3 elders were almost touching the ground. My dear son, have you entered the 9th level of mortal martial realm? Chen Tianhu asked. He was astonished and it was clearly visible on his face. Chen Xiang slightly pursed his lips, saying, I'm just at the 8th level of mortal martial realm, but I think I'll be able to hold Chen Thuong for quite a while. That way, you elders, with your overwhelming strength, will be able to completely decimate the Yao family. Chen Tianhu let loose a long breath. If Chen Xiang had entered into the 9th level of the mortal martial realm at his age, then he himself, as well as the other old men, should just go die in a handful of water. Thankfully, Chen Xiang had only entered into the 8th level of the mortal martial realm, which still gave them a big surprise. They also knew that his strength couldn't be defined by common norms. After all, when Chen Xiang was merely in the 5th level of the mortal martial realm, he was already able to defeat Chen Yian, who was in the 7th level of the mortal martial realm. Remembering this fact, the Chen family experts all shuddered. Chen Tianhu and the others soon left. They still had to secretly lead the 300 elites to the Yao family's tournament field tomorrow. Meanwhile, Chen Xiang was still adjusting himself to get to his most optimum state, so that he was prepared to cope with various situations that could occur tomorrow. Chapter 55, Dragon Martial Technique. The weather was sunny in the mornings. As usual, King City was very lively. Many people learned that there was only the final round left of the King City martial art tournament. However, even after that, there was one more hurdle to pass. One of the martial arts sect's disciple was also going to compete. Only after winning against that disciple could someone be considered the victor of the entire tournament. Hearing this new piece of information, Chen Xiang secretly cursed in his heart. He guessed that it must have been because of Chen Thuong. He must have disappeared from King City to recruit someone for this specific purpose, just so that Chen Xiang could not be considered the true winner of the King City martial art tournament. Rest assured, It is impossible for an inner disciple to participate, they don't have that much spare time. If I have to guess, it will probably be a relatively strong outer sect disciple. Most likely it will be someone around the 8th level of mortal martial realm. Sima Yao said. She and Ba Yao were very clear about the inner proceedings of sects. That's good. I hope that they are not too disappointing. Chen Xiang's fighting spirit soared in his heart. At the Yao family's main entrance, tens of thousands of people had already gathered. This was the finals of the tournament. Besides, it was the competition between two young juniors, both of which very prestigious and strong young men. Among the crowd, Chen Tianhu, Chen Yian, Chen Hihai and others had already hidden themselves. They each commanded 50 Chen family elite juniors. As soon as there was any sign of trouble, they were ready to take action. As Chen Xiang came over to the middle of the tournament stage, the crowd suddenly burst into an uproar. Surprisingly, he actually dared to come. I heard that the Yao family will take him away right after he wins the finals. One man said with a surprise. It is said that he has something to do with the disappearance of the Yao family elder and their young genius. The Yao family will probably pin that crime on him as an excuse to deal with him. Another middle-aged man said. He already has so much courage at such young age. 2 days before, he faced the Yao family elders after massacring Yao Cheng. Chen Xiang's strength is also good and he also dares to fearlessly threaten others regardless of their background. One teenager said full of envy. Of course, in this world, strength has always have been revered. As long you have strength, you can have everything. Listening to the arguments and conversations from the audience, Chen Xiang knew that the Yao family had deliberately released some information. This gave off the message that they were prepared to deal with the Chen family, which also signified the start of the war between the two families. This was a very common method. Other forces would often release such information to warn and threaten their opponents. Not far away from the tournament stage, there was a tower. On the top of that tower, there were many luxuriously dressed people residing in a room. Many maids and guards were present around them. From this alone, one could tell that their status was definitely out of the ordinary. The Southern Martial Empire's emperor is also watching the finals. I heard he is here to boost the morale of his son, and that he has also bought many Imperial Palace experts. In fact, even all of the Imperial concubines have come here to watch the finals. Chen Xiang's eyesight was very formidable. Among the people seated in the tower he could see a person wearing the dragon robe. He had a majestic expression. That middle-aged man with the extraordinary bearing was no doubt the emperor of the Southern Martial Empire. For the common populace, the imperial power was way above them. But for the powerful families, they were simply not worth mentioning. In the eyes of those families, the emperor was just someone who manages the empire, so that it can develop in an orderly fashion. There was not any kind of disarray among the populace, so these families could smoothly gain benefits from the common masses. The crown prince arrived as he flew from that distant tower. He was wearing a fiery red and magnificent dress, displaying the elegant King Gong skill he had. Softly, he landed on the tournament stage. His arrival alone caused many girls present to scream out. Chen Xiang was secretly belittling him in his heart, thinking, look at you, seeming so imposing. Just wait, I will beat you so hard that even your father, the emperor, will not recognize you afterwards. Song Nanming looked at Chen Xiang with disdain in his eyes, and calmly said, if you want to relieve yourself from physical suffering, there is still some time. Song Nanming knew how strong Chen Xiang was, but Song Nanming was also very confident about his victory. Chen Xiang, looking at that arrogant and sinister face of Song Nanming, guessed that he definitely had another despicable trick up his sleeve. This time, Chen Xiang was cautious and ready, otherwise he would be on the back foot again. Rest assured, I'm very thick-skinned. I'm afraid your hand will hurt if you hit me. Chen Xiang replied. It sounded sarcastic, but what he said was the truth. Humph, you don't know the immensity of the heavens. Song Nanming coldly snorted. He intentionally raised his voice, making it so that everyone on the whole field could hear it. Seeing Song Nanming putting on a high and mighty act, Chen Xiang secretly smiled in his heart. If you don't have necessary strength, everything said and done was all completely useless. Start. If someone violates the rules, you can already figure out the consequences. One old man wearing a grey robe shouted. He was not a member of the Yao family but rather one of oldest martial artists. It is said that he was the descendant of the founder of the martial art tournament. Song Nanming had already violated the rules before, but there was no evidence, so Chen Xiang could not do anything or point it out. At the start, Song Nanming faced the audience as he took off his golden red dress. Inside, he was wearing golden tights, and golden boots. It looked as if a wealthy nobleman had appeared on stage. Today, I'll show you a bit of the martial skills from our Southern Martial Empire's imperial family. I'll let you experience the formidability of the dragon martial technique," shouted Song Naming. An unusual fierce breath emanated from his body. It was similar to Chen Xiang's Azure Dragon True Ki, but was lacking in its ancient and majestic imposing aura. Dragon martial technique. This was one of the ancient martial techniques. Legend had it, the technique was handed down by someone who later transformed into a divine dragon. After casting it, one would gain the same imposing manner and power as a real dragon. That said, legend was certainly formidable. However, to be as formidable as dragon was very hard to believe. Watching the visible golden essence flowing in the blue veins of Song Naming's fists, everyone could not help but gasp. They had not expected that they would be able to witness the mystical dragon martial technique in their lifetime. Chen Xiang narrowed his eyes, released his powerful and invisible divine sense. He enveloped Song Naming's whole body, and could clearly see Song Naming's internal organs and was also able to observe how his true ki was circulating. Simultaneously, Chen Xiang secretly stored the whole process in his mind, and then also made his true ki flow in accordance with the previous method. I did not expect the dragon martial technique to appear in this secular world. Make sure to remember every bit of it. Sima Yao transmitted this order to Chen Xiang. Chen Xiang had already learned the entire technique. At this time, Song Naming, because of the profound method of circulating his ki, had made all of his internal true ki change in order to produce a stronger and more powerful force. Dragon Aura Fist. Song Naming fiercely leapt into the air as if a golden aura was shot towards Chen Xiang. Song Naming's fists quickly transformed, which had an uncanny resemblance to the eagle claws. Constantly rumbling, one after another, golden ki aura flew towards Chen Xiang, sending shock waves in the air as they flew past, followed by bursts of sonic booms one after another, as they violently struck on Chen Xiang's chest. After the golden ki aura struck Chen Xiang's chest, Song Naming soon appeared in front of Chen Xiang. Both of their fists flew towards each other. As the two moved, only explosions followed them. Fist met fist at an extremely fast pace. From afar, it appeared as if both of them had thousands of arms. In the mere blink of an eye, a few hundred punches had already been exchanged, each filled with true ki, resulting in numerous explosions. Song Naming threw out ki aura with each fist, and also produced a ki explosion. As such, the huge tournament stage started shaking, while the frightening sonic booms made more and more people shudder. But what made everyone dumbfounded was not the fact that Song Naming had casted the dragon martial technique, but rather the fact that Chen Xiang's fists had met evenly with Song Naming's blows. Furthermore, the speed of Chen Xiang's fists were exactly the same as Song Naming's punches. Additionally, all of this was done with a relaxed expression on Chen Xiang's face.